You're about to listen to a BBC podcast, and trust me, you'll get there in a moment. But if you're a comedy fan, I'd really like to tell you a bit about what we do. I'm Julia Mackenzie, and I commission comedy podcasts at the BBC. It's a bit of a dream job, really. Comedy is a fantastic, joyous thing to do because really you're making people laugh, making people's days a bit better, helping them process all manner of things. But, I also know that comedy is really subjective and everyone has different tastes. So we've got a huge range of comedy on offer, from satire to silly, shocking to soothing, profound to just general prattling about. So if you fancy a laugh, find your next comedy at BBC Sounds.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Hello, I'm Jonathan Sutherland, and this is the Scottish Football Podcast, bringing you all the news, views and analysis you need on this leap day, Thursday the 29th of February. Here's what's coming up.
Oh, and the ball,
another chance, and it's a goal! And it's Kelly for Celtic. Celtic 7, Dundee 0. Comes back for Lawrence, goal! Rangers have turned around!
A magnificent 7 for Celtic. Rangers resilient at Rugby Park. What does it all mean for the title race? Also,
at the moment, you can't see us winning another game because we've got to score goals and we've got to stop conceding stupid goals.
After a big win for St Johnstone, are Aberdeen worse under Warnock? And Ayr manager Scott Brown knows
it's an extremely tight league and results, anyone can beat anyone in this league, and that's the nature of this league, and you need to make sure you're on your A game.
Pound for pound, it's got to be one of the most entertaining leagues around. We look ahead to another crucial weekend in the Championship. Joining us on the Scottish Football Podcast today, the Clyde manager Ian McCall and the Queen's Park striker Cillian Sheridan. Two men on cloud nine this week. Ian McCall, if I can start with you. Rangers 5-0 victory against Hearts last weekend. Scotland beating England in the Calcutta Cup. Big results, but I think they all pale into insignificance with Clyde's 6-1 defeat of runaway League Two leaders Stenhousemuir. How did you sum it up?
It's football, isn't it? So, I think Stenny had won the last 8 at home, and we went out in the second half. It was quite a tight first half. Second half, I think we had 4 chances and scored 3 of them, and then we scored a couple, or 1 or 2, whatever it was, late on. So played very well. We'd been threatening to do that. Maybe not that type of scoreline. We've been threatening to get a result like that. But some of the goals we scored were really good. And football, I keep saying, is very, very simple. If you have a lot of players playing well on one day, you tend to win. And we had, I think, 9, 10 or 11 playing well, and came out comfortable winners. I think it'll probably, I'm not saying it's a good thing for Stenhousemuir, but I think they'll hopefully they've been the best team I think since I've been here for the last couple of months, and they'll go on and win the league now, and maybe that was a wake up call for them, and they'll start to get it going again. But great result for us, and I was delighted.
Huge congratulations, Ian. Gives you real hope at the bottom of the table there, obviously. And I'm almost thinking about booking in for hospitality on the 6th of April when you're at home to Stranraer, who are second bottom at the moment. So I think that might be a bit of a tasty one.
I think it might be sold out, John.
See if you can do me a favour. Thanks, Ian. Yes. Cillian, what a week it's been for you as well. I think, if I'm right, you had a big birthday last Friday, turned 35, and then scored your first goal for Queen's Park.
Yeah. I made sure to sign before I turned 35, so I was signing as a 34-year-old, not a 35-year-old. It was kind of for me just getting that first goal. Not a great past few seasons for me, so it was nice to kind of almost feel like, right, I'm actually back to being a footballer again. I know it's only one game. It's football can change very quickly from good to bad and from bad to good. So not getting carried away with it, but it was nice for myself, confidence wise. It was nice. I've kind of almost been drilled into me now from being in it so long that I'm kind of wary to enjoy it too much, where I'm kind of need to focus turns to Saturday already, where it's kind of, that's the thing with midweek games. When it goes good, you don't want to get too carried away with it, and if you have a bad result, it's always a good chance for teams to look ahead to the next chance to kind of fix it quickly. So yeah, I'm a little bit wary of being too happy about it.
Great stuff. Ian and Cillian with their tails up. Lots more from them. Before all of that, let's zip through the latest Scottish football headlines. Celtic destroyed Dundee 7-1 at home, while Rangers claimed what Philippe Clement described as a massive 3 points with a 2-1 victory over Kilmarnock at Rugby Park to remain too clear at the top. It was honours even at Tynecastle as Hearts and Hibs drew 1-1 in the Edinburgh Derby. Motherwell piled the misery on bottom side Livingston with a 3-1 victory at Almondvale. And it's worse now than it was under Barry. That's the view of Aberdeen legend Willie Miller after Aberdeen lost 2-0 at home to St Johnstone. That was manager Neil Warnock's 5th league game without a win. Okay, let's start at Rugby Park. A massive 3 points was the verdict from Philippe Clement. Rangers having to come from behind. Ian McCall, how big a result was that?
With Celtic, the game at Celtic Park being over within half an hour, and Rangers conceding an early penalty, was Danny Armstrong tucked away, and also the way Kilmarnock are playing, it's arguably the most difficult fixture on the calendar for any team that's going to Rugby Park now. I thought there was serious pressure there for it to could possibly have swung again, and it's great credit to Rangers that they came through that one. At that point, during the game, they'd have been behind in the league again after being on top just for 1 week or so. So, yeah, I agree. I think it's a really, really big result at a really difficult place. And again, Kilmarnock showed that how well organised Derek has him.
Yeah, there was a bit of adversity, it has to be said, I suppose, from a Rangers point of view. Obviously, having to come from behind, obviously filthy conditions for both sides. But the bottom line is Rangers 70 points, Celtic on 68. We'll get to them very shortly. Some big calls, Ian, from Philippe Clement as well. Barisic and Silva off at halftime. McCausland taken off after 56 minutes, and well, they get the job done. It was a fantastic strike as well, you'd have to say, from Tom Lawrence to win it. And Philippe Clement just getting it right again. We talk a lot about, Rangers being in the groove. He seems to be in the groove as a manager, if you can be in the groove as a manager.
Yeah, I think you can be. I when I looked at the team, I thought maybe on the type of night it was in the Ayrshire that maybe, Silva may not have been the right option. So I think whether we're saying the manager got it right, I think maybe he didn't get it right, but he managed to rectify it really, really early and went on to get a crucial result. But the funny thing is Celtic. I know people say Celtic's form is not good, but you look at the results. It's what have they won 9 and drawn 2 the last 11 or something ridiculous. I think Rangers have won 10, 11 in a row. This is like the old days for Celtic and Rangers when both teams by 5 o'clock were just looking at each other's results. We haven't had a title race like this, I think, for a number of years. And it's very exciting. I just think that could be pivotal, winning down there. And as I say, Lawrence being fit again, terrific winner. It was a big, big result for Rangers and for Clement.
Cillian, Kilmarnock, one of your old clubs, one of your 14 clubs that you've played for around the world. Didn't get the result last night, but it was another good performance against the old firm. Certainly another kind of Derek McInnes game plan. And as we've been mentioning, they did take the lead and they did cause Rangers plenty of problems.
Yeah, I think it's a sign of how far they've come under Derek McInnes, where they're playing against Rangers and Celtic and they're disappointed, especially at home if they don't come away with some sort of a result. I think possibly the weather maybe played more into Rangers' hands. Playing on that surface, you want this when it's wet and the ball moves much faster and more slick. It probably suits a better footballing team, which Rangers would be. So I think looking at the as bad as the weather is, and you're thinking, it's a horrible night. It's actually on that kind of a surface. That's probably what you want if you're a better team. But I think it kind of shows the form and the momentum that Rangers have at the minute. That they can go down to a goal there and in a place like that, in a team like that, and come back I just think confidence-wise and momentum, they're just in a really good place.
I'm not sure we're going to be able to tick off all of your 14 clubs from around the world during the podcast today, Cillian, but let's get through two of them. Celtic and Dundee last night, 7-1 victory for Celtic. Did you see that result coming?
Not that you don't see it coming, but you're also not surprised when it does happen. You're kind of, it's something that you're not expecting. But I had it before when at Dundee when we went to play Celtic under Ange Postecoglou's first season, and it was at the start of the season where they weren't doing particularly well. They were in a little bit of a bad spell, and we went there thinking we had a game plan, thinking right, they're a little bit under pressure here. We can really go and have a go with them, and you're going there full of kind of confidence in yourself, and then you just get one of those days. Everything can click for them. You can make a few mistakes that you don't get away with. And I think that's probably just probably what's happened. I heard Tony Docherty talking about he wasn't happy with how they defended and making mistakes and stuff like that. Another day, look, they could have, within the last few weeks, maybe they might have caught Celtic on one of the days where they weren't quite up to their top standards. And I just think they've met them on a day where everything for them was clicked, finishing wise. Like first half to be 6-0 at halftime it's not too often you see that. So, I mean, even to come back out and as he was saying, like you're drawing the second half 1-1. It's demoralising, but it's kind of one of those things that you're kind of not expecting it, but you know it can happen in a weird way. And probably from Celtic's point of view, it'll give them a lot of confidence as well.
We have to turn to Aberdeen now. Hugely damaging result for them and for Neil Warnock, you'd have to say, against St Johnstone. Fantastic result for them. Let's talk about Neil Warnock. He says you can't see Aberdeen winning another game at present the way things are. Clearly they're in a relegation battle now, Cillian. What are your thoughts on Warnock's time so far in charge at Pittodrie?
Yeah, probably not obviously as he was expecting it to go. I think from the first game, his first game against Rangers, there was probably more positive signs where it was like, right, there's something changing here. It seems to be that kind of new manager bounce that you kind of get. But when you're down that part of the table, generally a table doesn't lie. Like there's a reason you're in that position. And maybe he probably was expecting a bit more of, not him, but probably the club and everyone else were maybe expecting a bit more of a bounce from his appointment that hasn't come. And at the same time, other clubs who were also in the same position also made changes. So it's a lot of the clubs were making changes at the same time in terms of managers and stuff like that, where some have worked better than others. For St Johnstone, it's a massive result. They've looked a lot more like a tough team to beat now. And then for them to go there, it's a massive result for them as well to kind of really drag Aberdeen into it as well, I think.
That's another of your clubs ticked off, Cillian. Well done, St Johnstone. Fantastic. In terms of Neil Warnock, for you, Ian McCall, Aberdeen now just 4 points above Ross County in 11th place. How much bother are Aberdeen and Neil Warnock in right now, would you say?
Well, I think they're in serious bother. I mean, I think, a lot of the guys that work at the weekend, when I watch sometimes there's some that you trust, some that you don't have their knowledge of football, but I trust Willie Miller, and Willie Miller has watched them quite a lot. And if he says they've regressed, obviously I've not seen them many times, but there's a certain abrasive style to Neil's management style. I mean, it may be different when the cameras aren't there, when he's not in front of the media, but it can certainly turn players off, I think. And as soon as that happens, it's different to turn that. It's going to be a real... I mean, the stuff with Miovski, who, well, if he hasn't carried Aberdeen all season, but, to blame him publicly for a goal, for not picking up a man who scored, I mean, that's fair enough. but after relying on him so heavily he does that. And if you lose Miovski, in terms of mentally, you've got a real problem. So I think it's going to be really tough for Aberdeen. I really do. I mean, Neil Warnock's been in these situations many times, even more than me, believe it or not. So he will probably know how to get out of it. But I think they're in a really, really tough situation.
Let's turn to the Edinburgh Derby as well, just briefly. Cillian, it was an impressive display by Hibernian at times. Obviously, Hearts wanted to get a reaction after the 5-0 drubbing by Rangers, and they get a point, albeit through a debatable penalty, which I think Lawrence Shanklin did well to dispatch, given all the stuff that was being chucked at him by Hibs fans behind the goal. In terms of Hibs, obviously hugely heartening from Nick Montgomery's point of view that they were able to trouble Hearts so much.
Yeah, I think it's probably a bit frustrating that seems to come quite sporadic in those kind of performances. One week I don't think he really knows what kind of team is going to show up or how they're going to play. So I think when you're going up against, take away last week's result for Hearts against Rangers, they were the informed team. So for him to come away from the game disappointed with a draw is a sign of a good. I think in the way that both teams are it's a good sign for them. But I think it also shows that there's promising things there for them, that he knows that they are capable of performances like that. And it's probably, you'll be looking at that game and the Celtic game where they've come away with draws when possibly disappointed not to win those games.
Yeah, obviously just off the back of that 2-1 victory over Dundee on Saturday as well. So maybe a bit of sunshine on Leith all of a sudden. But we have to finish as well the Premiership chat, Ian, about Livingston. Motherwell manager Stuart McKettlewell, you've got a good night's sleep with that victory over Livingston, gives them a bit more breathing space. Livingston, though, 7 points behind Ross County at the bottom of the table. They had a blip where they won a match against St Mirren, but apart from that, it's been doom and gloom. Can you really see any way back for them? I suppose as a Clyde manager at the bottom of League Two, you're going to say that there is always hope.
Yeah, of course there is. David would say that as well, but I think he's in a unique position that... if they do go down, then I think he should be, allowed to try and bring the club back up. I watched the full game last night, and it wasn't a great sight for Scott. I thought Motherwell played really well during the second half, but in terms of the crowd and the pitch, etc., was a terrific advert, I didn't think, for our football up here. But for Davey to have kept them in the Premier League for 5, 6 years, whatever it is, it's just miraculous. It really is. And when you look at the fan base, etc., listen, it's going to be tough for them. But listen, Jonas, as you say, you never give up. And one result, and you've got the splits in that division, where if you can get within 3 or 4 points, you're playing the teams around you. So you've always got a chance. I'm sure Davey will be saying that, but it looks bleak just now, I think.
For everything you need to know about your team this season, download the BBC Sport app. All the latest news, goal updates, stats and scores, and insight and analysis. Just select your club to get the biggest stories and best content at your fingertips. What a result. Download the BBC Sport app for everything you need to know about your team this season.
Let's turn our attention now to all things Championship. First up, it's live on Sports Scene on Friday night. That's tomorrow. Arbroath versus Wraith Rovers. A terrible result for Arbroath on Tuesday, losing 6-0 to Cillian Sheridan's Queen's Park. Cillian, of course, scored, as we've already documented. And Arbroath, yes, quick check of the table, 7 points behind Inverness Cally Thistle. And Cally Thistle have a game in hand. This has got to fall into the must-win category for them. Surely, Cillian.
Yeah, no, definitely, especially after the result against us. It's one of those, I'm sure they would have been going in afterwards and thinking, right, we've got a chance to kind of rectify it straight away. So it's I was talking about it from the other side of being on the right side of that result, where you're kind of trying to put it behind you so you're not getting carried away and you're fully focused on Saturday that it's a new game. So I've been in the position before where you have a bad result midweek, and then the fact you get to go and play so quickly, it's almost like a chance to, right, we can fix it now. This is So I think probably from Raith's point of view, they'll be looking at it like, we kind of hope we don't get that reaction from them. And also Raith are probably a little bit disappointed with their result as well. So definitely it's got the makings for a good game, I think.
It's such an intriguing division, of course. Raith Rovers level now on points with Dundee United at the top of the table, 51 points. Dundee United with a much, much better goal difference, of course. Ian, do you see anything other than a Raith victory against Arbroath to keep the pressure on against Dundee United, who do travel to Partick Thistle on Saturday, and that is a huge match as well, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I think Raith should have enough, but listen, it's not a foregone conclusion. Going to Gayfield on a Friday night, who knows what the weather's going to be like, so anything other than a win will hand Dundee United a boost for going to Firhill, and Thistle need a win as well. So there's all sorts of little stories in the Championship right now. I think that Morton, the run they're on is fabulous. Obviously the game between Dunfermline and Ayr, whoever wins that, whoever loses that will go back the way, and they'll be in a relegation battle for a week until they see what the next result. So it's a really fascinating league, but yeah, Raith really need to win, but so do Arbroath. Sets up a big game at Firhill between Thistle and Dundee United.
Yeah, it's like snakes and ladders in the Championship most of the time, to be honest, isn't it? We have to talk about Dundee United, obviously losing 2-0 to Airdrie at home. How would you sum things up at Tannadice right now?
Well, I mean, I think it was going really well. If it had 1 or 2, I think the game at Raith, the live BBC game a couple of weeks ago, really that could have clinched it for. When anybody watching the game, I think you'd say they deserve to win, and then Brown comes up with a wonder goal in the last minute for Raith to bring them back into it. So yeah, I mean, I think they've done okay. I think that they should be judged. I mean, playing Airdrie at home is like, Airdrie have got an awful lot of legs. They've got 22 legs, obviously, but they've got people that can run about a lot. They've got a lot of good players. They've got a good young manager. They're a match for any team on their day. Dundee United were expecting to win that at Tannadice, but I think really you've got to be, Jim and his staff have got to be judged at the end of the season whether they get Dundee United back to the Premier League, which is really what it's all about for them, and I still think they probably will have enough.
As for yourselves, Cillian, Queen's Park up against Airdrie, an away match for you. How are the Spiders feeling about going into that one?
Yeah, I think you have to be confident after such a good result midweek. I think it's just about kind of not so much not getting carried away with it, but kind of channeling that confidence and kind of setting your own standards that's a level that we can get at and play at. So, but then again, Airdrie will be saying the exact same. You go away and beat Dundee United, they're going to be full of confidence as well. So, generally I've found not just the Championship, but even probably in the Premier League here, it's kind of what the team that shows up on the day. Every team has good weeks training and stuff. It generally boils down to on the day who's going to play, who's going to show up and kind of play to their strengths and how they've been training all week.
We've touched on Dunfermline versus Ayr, and a real amount of fight is going to have to be shown by Cali Thistle, you'd have to say, Ian, up against Morton at Fortress Capital. Worth mentioning the stats with Morton. Over 3 months without defeat, 16 matches in that time, 11 victories, 5 draws. I mean, it's an express train at the moment under Dougie Imrie. So it's another tough one for Inverness Cali Thistle, who are in that playoff spot at the bottom of the table right now.
Yeah, I mean, so I talked about Rugby Park being a really hard place to go to. Capello in the Championship is as hard as it comes right now. So, yeah, I mean, I think Dougie and the guys at Mon will just be a bit disappointed they didn't start the season a bit better, because if they hadn't had such a bad run, they'd be right contesting to go and win it. I think they're a nail on to the top 4 spot now, and you wouldn't want to be playing them. And I tell you, the team second bottom of the Premier League do not want to be going to Capello in a playoff final, that's for sure.
And that is all we've got time for. Many thanks to Ian McCall and Cillian Sheridan, and thank you for listening. Remember, you can see Arbroath versus Raith Rovers live on Sports Scene with me on the BBC Scotland channel for 7:30 on Friday night. And we're with you here on the Scottish Football Podcast every morning by 8 a.m. So if you haven't done so already, just follow and subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Scottish football, the gift that keeps on giving. Thanks for listening.
The Scotland Rugby Podcast is now available every Tuesday. Join me, Andy Burke and Tom English. Just head to BBC Sounds and subscribe to the Scotland Rugby Podcast.
It's just seismic stuff.
There's bucket hats as well.
Oh, really? Yeah.
Is this a rugby podcast or is this a fashion podcast?
Why can't it be a bit of both?
Rugby. Let's get on to rugby.
There's a lot to be excited about.
Today's guest, John McGuigan.
Clubs are at the absolute bedrock of everything Scottish rugby's about.
The Rugby Sports Sound Podcast from BBC Radio Scotland.
You cannot help but be so excited. It's going to be the centre of the rugby universe.
BBC Sounds.